Oh, hi, and welcome to Basic Folk, where we have honest conversations with folk musicians. It's Cindy. How's it going? Thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to be talking to Phil Moore from the band Bowerbirds, who have been off the musical radar since about 2012. Their album, The Clearing, was the last one they released. Lots has changed for the B-Birds, which now centers solely around Phil Moore since his bandmate and former partner Beth Tacular has left to concentrate on her own artwork. 2021 sees a new Bowerbirds album called Be Calm, Young Lovers, and a new version of Phil himself. He writes to his fans on his website, "It's been 8 years since you've heard new Bowerbirds music, and you and I have changed in ways that we couldn't have imagined back then." Phil's intense connection to nature remains, as he's always been drawn to the outside world, starting as a kid, going into college for biology, and moving to North Carolina in 2005 for a job as a bird tracker. In our conversation, we probably spent way too much time talking about birds and bird watching, and I came to find a real appreciation for the activity, hearing about it through Phil's experience, and I just might be inspired to pick up a field notebook and night vision monocular myself. It seems like a very calm and grounding experience, which can also be said for the music of Bowerbirds. There's also a deep dive into different kinds of anxiety that Phil experiences, which seems to be mostly logistical, non-performance panic. He talks about different ways he understands and manages fear and anxiety. And I also basically give him a lecture about how important his music is to people because it has meant so much and helped me through so much. Helping people has been one of Phil's main objectives for Bowerbirds, and I'm here to tell him straight to his face, he's doing it. Now let's all go birding. Phil is so good. We're going to take a listen to a song from Bowerbirds' latest album. Moon Phase is the song, and then we'll get to our conversation with the great Phil Moore of Bowerbirds on Basic Folk.
Tell me, darling, is it just a phase somehow? Or will I never know your warmth again on the dark side now? Always chasing something, never meant to get in your way. But even when the fall from the fighting, I'll be yours to blame. Even when the fall from the fighting is, I'll be yours to blame.
Thanks so much for being on Basic Folk. It's so nice to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me here.
I've been a fan of your band since the debut record, so I've been following along and so pumped that you put this new record out, which I've listened to a bunch of times, and it sounds awesome. So welcome back. We miss you and we love you. And
thank you.
So pumped to talk. Okay, how do you pronounce your hometown?
It all depends on which one you mean.
The one that starts with a G.
Oh, Grinnell.
Yeah.
Like the one that I grew up in. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your other hometown?
Well, just the one I live in now is Durham, North Carolina.
Okay. Got it.
Yes.
Yeah. We're going back take us back to Iowa.
We're going back. Okay. Yeah. We're Grinnell, Iowa, which a lot of folks know for the college that's there. Grinnell College, which is like a little liberal arts college that's, a lot of folks from the East Coast go to. Well, a lot of folks from around the world go to. Similar to like McAllister, or
is that also in Iowa?
No, that's in Minnesota. That's in Minneapolis.
Okay.
So a little more known. But there's like part of the Great Lakes colleges. And so anyway, my folks taught math there, which is how I ended up in the middle of Iowa.
Okay, so what was the area like where you lived, and then where did you see yourself being drawn to, like in your town when you were a kid?
Little tiny town, half farm kids and half like, not half, but like, a lot of farm kids, a lot of like, there was a couple plants there, all, that revolved over the years. And then the college. So those were like the main
When you first said
employers.
plants, I was like, oh, like plants that grow from the ground. You mean like
Yeah.
manufacturing?
Manufacturing plants. Yeah, exactly. Just one tiny thing, one high school, yeah.
So you were friends with a lot of the farm kids, and you said that they were like the most creative with their free time. What did that creativity look like in reality, and what impact do you think those like early connections with those types of friends had on you?
I had one friend in particular, Ryan Hendrickson, who we did a lot of like self-motivated like exercise programs, which is kind of funny, but also like would go like,
What do you mean self-motivated exercise programs?
like not through like Parks and Rec or like the school.
Doing like CrossFit?
We're basically doing like, before CrossFit existed, I guess. We're doing like little like just like calisthenics, I guess, and alternating like running, and I don't know. It was pretty funny. It was like in middle school, and then we also did like looked at statistics looked at the sports stats, and we would like pick our teams. I guess it's what people do these days. They call it fantasy
football or something. Yeah.
But we would just use basketball stats and make our teams like that. And it was just the two of us. And it was mostly just him. He came up with all these ideas that were, super creative. It was just like he was one boy in a family of like 3 sisters and like lived and worked on a farm. So
His activities sound so wholesome.
yeah. Oh, it was very wholesome. My whole existence was very wholesome, like, and sheltered, I'd say.
Where did listening to music come into play in your family, and how has that informed your music listening as you've grown up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my mom played piano and sang, not much, but like, just the act of her playing Claire de Lune in the house was pretty informative for me. Even once a month or whenever she would, sit at the piano. And
is that a classical piece?
Yeah, it's like by Debussy.
Okay.
Just a solo piano piece.
Beautiful.
Really, really beautiful piece. Part of like the Suite Bergamasque, which is like still my favorite to this day. Yeah, and my dad just listened to a lot of music, but we're talking the Beatles and the Beach Boys and stuff like that, and Paul Simon and Garfunkel, So
was he like playing it around the house, like on a record player or in a car?
He had a lot of what he called platters, and we play them all the time.
Oh my God, your dad sounds like such a dad.
Oh, he's such a dad, yeah. For
That's awesome.
sure. Yeah.
You started playing music in middle school with some close friends, and it sounds like you played with them for a while. Like, what did that look like, and how did it feel to play music at first?
Like in my town, we had one other band called Whiplash, and they played like Poison and like Motley Crue covers. They were a cover band, and
Was
they were like
the like early 90s?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm like 42 now.
Right.
So
Had Nirvana
yeah.
come around at that point?
Okay, so that was just like right when we were like starting our band, and so this was like what we were getting into. It was like Smells Like Teen Spirit and Fishbone, and I don't know, a lot of old like King Crimson and Genesis, because our drummer loved that stuff.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. So we were very like, we didn't have a model or like a blueprint to go by. So we really tried to play a little bit of everything, or what we knew of everything. We were kind of a little schizophrenic, but would play a lot of like weird math rock and like
Did your parents
acoustic
like that?
stuff.
Mathematicians?
No, not at all. I mean, they totally didn't understand it, and were like kind of up until the point that like I started playing and writing Bowerbirds music. My parents were kind of scratching their heads, but they fully adopted the Bowerbirds back in like 2006. So
Sweet.
yeah.
In reading a lot about you and trying to like think a little deeper about like the way your brain operates, I read that you like lyrics with like a direct or literal meaning, but sometimes you'll also write in like a figurative manner. It's like you're a very like dreamy person who can also read instructions and build a house. And I found this funny quote from you where you said, "It's a lot easier than people think. Just follow the instructions," which these like two different sides of you, I think it's like a pretty rare combination. So like, what does that balance look like for you when it comes to like creativity and it comes to like the part that follows directions and science?
Well, I don't think I'm very precise of anything. I don't really do anything to like I make a lot of mistakes, I think, so I guess when I say follow the instructions, I don't know, whenever I said that,
Right.
it was like,
I'm not holding you to anything that I've
no,
done with you.
I totally remember that actually. It was just like from some like residential, and it's true, like framing book or whatever. But, yeah, just like, it's hard to say because I'm me, I guess, you know what I mean? It just seems normal to do how I do things. I don't know.
Well, it also
But
sounds like in what you're saying is that like you make a lot of mistakes, but it sounds like you give yourself space to make mistakes.
yeah, definitely that's true. And I think that's where especially great creative things come from, at least for me. When I like most of my songs are just, mistakes. I think other people call it like channeling something, or I think it's all the same thing, where if you just do it and you keep an open mind to what's coming in, or or what you're doing, or what you're whatever it is, like if you like use those mistakes, and then you like find new avenues, and I think that's exciting. An exciting part of writing music or doing anything really.
Yeah.
So,
So what you're saying is you learn from your mistakes.
yeah. Or at least, I don't even know if I learn from mistakes, but I learned that I like making mistakes. So I like to try new things.
Yeah.
And so I do try a lot of new things, and I don't master hardly any of them because that's not really my favorite part of it. But yeah.
Sorry, one more question about this, like literal, figurative, like being self-aware about your like practical and creative side, or like being self-aware between literal lyrics and figurative lyrics. I don't recall what song this is you said this about, but you said, I remember talking to Mark in the band about one of the songs, and he was like, well, it's a lot different than the other songs in that it's more obtuse. And then you actually said, I forget which song that was. I had no idea, but the song made perfect sense to me. Like, how difficult is it for you to distinguish the difference between literal and figurative?
I think it's very hard for me.
And is that even important?
I don't think for what I'm doing, at least, it is important. I don't really overanalyze the words that I write so much. Yeah, I don't think about them. So yeah, for example, Mark, I remember him saying a lot of lyrics on that first album were sort of didactic, and I was like, okay, first of all, I have to look that word up.
To look up that word, yes.
Yes, one, like A, and then B, I was like, oh, I didn't realize that I was doing that, and this is a long time ago, so that I looked that word up, but I think it means like preachy, didactic. I could be wrong, but they were like kind of preachy and I like really hadn't noticed that a lot of those lyrics were sort of like that. So, because I really can't, like I can only do what I can do, I feel like, and I don't, if I could analyze them and,
the way that like I could compare your experience to like something that I might experience is if like I told a joke, which I do often, will tell a joke and it totally doesn't land.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is like basically the funniest thing I've ever said. And like, if you have to, I mean, a joke is different because if you have to explain the joke,
yes,
then it's not funny. But,
right.
But yeah. Yeah, I just thought that was really interesting that you were like, this song makes perfect sense. And Mark was like, WTF, man, I don't know what this means. But yeah, I think that also like it doesn't like super matter, but
right.
Interesting to think about. And
Definitely
Mark
right.
Is it Mark Paulson, your childhood friend?
Yes, he's my like friend from middle school, and we started playing music together.
And he was in Bowerbirds.
And he was in Bowerbirds.
Okay,
yep.
Cool. Is he still in North Carolina?
Yeah, he is. I just saw him a couple of days ago.
Sweet.
And yeah, he's in Raleigh, and I'm in Durham.
Cool.
But, yeah.
So after college, and you and Mark didn't go to the same college, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
He went to Grinnell, hometown, but. Yeah.
This sounds interesting. You worked and lived on a farm. What types of things were you doing, and what types of things did you learn or come to realize like doing that job?
Yeah, I worked on like a farm that was not like a nice organic farm or anything. So it was like a very, very big operation, but it was only like one family really. So one person, and I learned that the family farm in Iowa is dying, or was dying in 2005, I guess it was. And he rented land from all these, he had to lease land from all these other people. So he had like hundreds and hundreds of acres, and he had to farm every single one of those acres. And I was driving a tractor and like V-ripping and driving a cart. And so he could dump all the corn in the cart.
What is V-ripping?
It's like, it's kind of like aerating the soil.
Oh, all right.
For
Tilling?
the next year. Tilling? Yeah, I guess so. But it was like, I think it was slightly different. I don't know. But he trusted me with his like tractor. So that's what I did.
Nice.
And then like, drove a combine a few times, and like took care of some pigs and cows and stuff. But
nice.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about birds. You moved to North Carolina 2005 for a bird job. Was it tracking the plaintive warbler? Was that right? Swainson's
warbler.
Oh.
And that was yeah. And I moved actually to Raleigh to be with my best friends who like from Grinnell, who I played music with.
Oh, cool. Was that Mark?
That was Mark, okay. And then my friend Wes. And so we moved there. Kind of like that, and just like, there will hopefully be jobs there.
So you moved, you leaped, and the net appeared, and it was warblers.
Yes, exactly. And I had one job before that in Arizona working with birds too. So it was it was on my radar.
And you have been like an avid bird watcher. How did you get into birds, and like what do you get out of like bird watching, and what do you find so fascinating about birds?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I'm not like a total avid bird watcher, but my parents were avid bird watchers, so I would tag along, and then my mom would be like, "Oh, Philip, your eyes are so good," like encouraging me like that, and I think like I was just like, "Oh, I guess I'm good at this," or whatever from a young age, and then like, and so I don't know, I never got into it like in a like a true birders sort of obsessiveness quality, but I like love bird watching. I don't know my calls. I like all the little brown birds look the same to me.
Mm.
You know, but I just love what it does for me is it just like it has like a point of focus when I go out in nature. So I'll be, and now I like to take photographs of birds and like go out and spend like an hour just by myself in the woods and take photographs of birds and for no point except for to do it, and it just makes me feel better about my day. So I don't know.
Sounds grounding.
Yeah, I think it's just grounding. Yeah.
I love that.
And an excuse to like settle down and be in nature. So
Aside from bowerbirds, what are your favorite birds?
good question. I love like large mid-sized wading birds, like little blue herons and little green herons and like ibis and birds like that just because they're so elegant, and I see them when I go to Florida, which I don't go to very much, and so they're kind of a treat.
Mm.
And yeah, those are some of my favorites.
I went to Belize last year, and
Oh, wow.
there's a lot of bird watching there. I am not a bird watcher at all, but the two
Yeah.
birds that I saw that I really loved were the toucan.
Oh, nice. Beautiful.
And we actually saw one in a tree, like near the place we were staying, and I got a little video of it, like crying or cawing or whatever it does.
Yeah.
And the other one is the egret that like sits on the back of cows.
Oh,
And
cattle egret.
They're like
Yeah.
and then it'll eat like the bugs off the cows, and it's like interspecies
nice.
friendship.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Which is always nice.
A little mutualism. That's nice.
So Bowerbirds, the band was named after the bowerbird of Australia who creates bowers with berries and flowers to attract mates. You've called them artists, which is really cool. Like they basically are making a work of art. Can you talk more about birds and like nature in general as artists, like where you see art in nature?
Oh, good. Very good question. I don't know if I see art in nature so much as I see nature, or like I don't really see the need for art in nature. Like I feel like art is a lot of the times like therapeutic with like, and kind of like, I don't know, I've called this different things over the years, but therapeutic against like capitalism, and human, what we are doing to the planet, whatnot, whether it's like psychologically in our brains or physically to the planet or whatever, and I think of art as like kind of something antithetical to us as humans, and it's I feel like it's more rare to see in nature with like bowerbirds, and I don't think it is the same thing, but yeah, I think nature is just already as beautiful as it could be,
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't need to be altered in any sort of way.
So you and your former partner, bandmate Beth, which by the way, I don't have any like questions about the ins and outs of your relationship.
No problem.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You and Beth were the core of Bowerbirds, and you also had like this pretty rad lifestyle together, like living off the grid in your Airstream trailer in the woods, then building a cabin on your own. And you've talked about how the woods help you concentrate, and you've had a hard time with like concentration in the city, like city noises bum you out. What is it about the space and the lifestyle of living like this that helps you focus? And what was it like when like that first occurred to you?
Yeah, that's really cool. It's cool that you like did this research, and
It's freaky, huh? You
it's
freaked out?
freaky, but I love it. I love it, and especially like in my case, like I didn't answer these questions like yesterday. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
these are like old questions, but they're still completely. I guess I wasn't like bullshitting back in the day, so that's good.
Yeah.
But no, that's totally true to this day. And when did I realize it? Um, I think I realized it pretty young when when I grew up in a small town.
Mm-hmm.
That was like I loved being in a small town and having all that space. Um, and moving even to a slightly bigger town was kind of like difficult for me to adjust. So, um, and I've never lived in New York. I really don't. I love it for like 2 days maybe, and then I just need to get the heck out of there. So, um, yeah. Um, but okay, could you remind me of the question again? I'm sorry, I kind of lost focus.
Like, what is it about the space and lifestyle that helps you focus, and what was
yeah.
it like when it first occurred to you?
Yeah, I mean, it is weird. I went out to the cabin. I don't live there anymore. But I went out there the other day for a weekend, and it was surprising how few like car noises there were, and kind of how many more bird sounds and coyote sounds you could hear out there. And it was really, I don't know exactly what it is about that, but it really, just calms me. It feels like the pace of life is slowing down, and so like that slowness kind of helps me focus.
Whenever I notice that, like if I go out, my dad and I went to a yurt recently.
Yeah.
And, like we're driving home and I'm drinking water and I can feel the water like going all the way down my esophagus. Or for some reason, like for me, that's like, oh, I'm relaxed. Like I'm calm enough to pay attention.
Yeah, that's cool.
Little stuff like that. So I don't know if this is still true, but you've called yourself a workaholic who thrives on like seemingly, from what I can gauge from this angle, seemingly overcommitting yourself to your creative projects, even though you're like you're talking about like thriving on slowing down. Like how hard has it been to maintain that solace, and like how will you work now to keep the joy in creating music?
Well, that's really cool. Another, I'm hearing that like back to me again for like, and that's like been a break for, because like I haven't lost the joy of creating music, and I don't know what it is. I've compartmentalized it somewhere, outside of obligatory work. And I think that's really important for me to do. Because otherwise, I've certainly lost a lot of joy in other forms of work. Like I think we all have, tried certain things and realized those things weren't for us. But I think that's just, I don't know if I was, made for musical creative work, but I feel like I was made for some sort of creative work. And I think, it would be hard. And I learned music at a young age and found the joy in it. And I think I've never lost it, thankfully. Yeah.
You said, I like being isolated and I like being secluded. And I think about this sometimes, like for you, like where's the difference between isolation and loneliness? Like if you experience both, and how you might manage loneliness in the middle of the woods after a 12-year relationship is broken up. 15, sorry.
Yeah. And I don't live there anymore. And I think there's a reason for that. And it is because probably, I'm not with the person I was out there with. And I love,
because it does get lonely.
It does get lonely. Yeah. It does get lonely. And it's also hard to like completely, match. Like if you're a couple out in the woods, it's hard to, match each other's sense of like, like needing other people, like social, like needing the same social circles, size of social circles, outside of the two of you.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, I mean, that's like kind of a near impossibility to match those.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah. So, even if you're in town, so, it's like, yeah, I definitely could stand to be out in the woods by myself for a week, possibly 2 weeks, get a little stir crazy around then maybe, but like, yeah, I love being alone, and don't find it's hard for me to find like, yeah, it's hard for me to get sick of being alone. But yeah, I definitely feel the same pangs of needing human interaction too, and it's pretty cool when you're like have been out in the woods for like a week straight and then see somebody and it feels like you've like, or like you're ultra sped up and you're like, oh my God, yeah. And
right.
Like, you're like, yeah. Drank like 3 cups of coffee, even though you haven't. So yeah.
Cool. All right, let's talk about anxiety. I hear that you get like pretty nervous about tour, but it's like kind of like the logistical stuff, like where you should park the van and loading in, loading out. But you also say that like performance does not come naturally to you and that it can be uncomfortable. What is your relationship to anxiety and how do you work to manage it within your music career? And also like what has it been like to like revisit some of that anxiety? I know we're not performing now, but like some of that anxiety must be coming back after 8 years away.
Yes. And yeah, I have a lot of probably mismanaged, unmanaged anxiety, and I think it really, definitely came through with performing. I was never, even having performed since middle school, I've never really gotten over the nerves, and it alters the way my hands work playing guitar, and it doesn't feel like there are some shows where I'll completely totally mess up, like remembering back in the day, because I'll mess up the guitar or something and I'm like holding on by a thread, and
oh wow,
yeah, and that's after playing 5 shows in a row, and it'll just like all of a sudden pop up. But that said, anxiety, it's really nice that I was just thinking about it on a run just like 20 minutes ago. It's nice that that's like so public these days. I think when I was growing up, I felt like ashamed to be like an anxious person. And
did you at least have the insight to say like, oh, this is anxiety?
I don't know if I did as much. Certainly not as much as I do now. But maybe, yeah, like I think I was, and when I was younger, like in high school, I certainly didn't really understand what was going on in my head as much. Do you have anxiety?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Celexa.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I don't have anything, but like I was like sitting around a campfire with my friends and they were like, there's no shame in this. Like, I feel like over the moon, I can do all the things that I wanted to do. And I'm just like, yeah, it's just like totally rad.
Yeah. Like what, if you can manage it, which like, I'm not great at it, but like, if you can manage it, you can do like reasonable, you can handle stressful things pretty reasonably,
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely like showed itself to me several years ago, and my friend was like, do you hear yourself? Like, you are full-blown panicking right now. And then it reminded me of like all these different instances during childhood where you'd get that similar feeling. Like, I would try to like, this is going a little off course here, but like my dad is like definitely a type to like wander away, and like we would go to like Fenway Park to watch baseball, and I would be like, where is everybody? Just making sure everyone's here. If I can't see somebody within my line of sight, I'd get like really upset and nervous, and then try to like think of these stories that I would like save up stories in my head to like try to tell my family, like, oh, I was driving, we were driving the other day and there's this, whatever, just telling a stupid story to like distract myself from the panic and fear that like my father is gone for the rest of my life. I'll never see him again,
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know
Wow.
if that
And
resonates.
yeah, it definitely resonates with me. Like in a similar, like on my run today, I was kind of going down. It reminds me of a book that I read when I was a kid called The Worried Walrus. Did you ever read that
No.
book? It was like
Oh,
one of those
awesome.
golden books,
Oh, okay, yeah.
Golden Spine books. And then he just like, it goes down like his mental path of being like, and it's a walrus that's doing this, but he'll just be like, oh, I was like, whatever. I went to the living room and something was missing. And then he's like, oh, was it missing because of an egret came into the house and stole it and then went off, and then the egret like got hit by a car, and then there was a traffic jam and like a helicopter had to come. I'm just totally making
Oh my
this up,
God. But
it was like
that sounds like
you-
anxiety.
exactly. And it's kind of a fun book to read
Did he
because
get
you're like,
Celexa at the end of the book?
you know what? I don't remember the book, but
20
probably.
milligrams.
Yeah. I'm sure he talked to his therapist. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, that's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Anxiety. We all have it. But
Yeah.
it's important to recognize what it is.
For sure. And is it just, that's what I've always like, I'm tossing around in my head. Is it just a symptom of the world we live in? Or is it, and we wouldn't necessarily have it if we lived in a different world?
Right.
Not that that's just totally hypothetical and we could never live in a different world, but, I don't know.
So in talking about going through like hard times, difficult times, like this quote is from when Beth went through that really serious illness many years ago. You said, not to sound
Mhm.
overly dramatic, but when you go through something like that, you feel like you only have so much time and you should probably make something as beautiful as possible while you're on earth, which is like, that's a beautiful sentiment. Since then, you have gone through more hard and more serious things and have found ways to actually process them through the new songs on the record. How has like going through those difficult times, like how do you see that changing the way you write, like for each crisis that you've gone through?
I actually don't think I don't think my process has changed hardly at all. I think the process is kind of therapy at its core. And I do try to deal with, not try, I just end up dealing with those things because they're, the heaviest things on my brain. And for whatever reason, those are the things I like to write about. But I think it really hasn't changed since, from when I was like 25 to now. It has kind of been similar and a similar sort of therapy for me.
Yeah, it's like you got to deal with it or you
Or
explode.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
you just become
Yeah.
like a shell.
Yeah.
It also
Absolutely.
seems like some of the new songs are like processing some feelings from childhood. Like, for instance, the song Endless Chase, which was released in 2020, it's all about remembering the confidence of youth. Which I love that. What was it like to go back to that time and reflect on those memories as an adult? And like, how do you feel about or how do you think about your younger self differently now that you've gone through life? Now that you're
Yeah.
like in your 40s?
Yeah. I'm proud of myself for doing some things that I wanted to do at that time. I don't look back and I don't think I made the wrong choices. I mean, maybe talk to me on a different day, but I'm proud of like pursuing something creative that like aligned with who I am. And like I said before, I had all the what do you call it? Latitude, space, whatever, to do that because, my parents would bail me out if I had failed, basically. But I am proud of my younger self for trying to do those things and doing them to some degree of, it's just nice to look back on all those songs that I wrote back in the day and have these memories of them that really it just kind of affirms in my later years now, like who I was and who I am. And yeah, I don't know.
That's nice because I feel like as somebody with anxiety, like you tend to look back on yourself and be very ashamed.
Yeah.
So it's nice to hear that you've kind of like overcome some of that and just like, I don't know. I was hoping that you say that you would have some kind of positive answer to that,
Yeah.
you know, because I think
Yeah.
people should look back on who they were as a younger person with kindness.
Yes, that's a really good point.
Yeah. So the new record, Be Calm Young Lovers, was it recorded in your cabin?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which you had built with Beth.
Yes.
What was it like to create these songs, some of them about your relationship ending, in a former shared space, like not only shared, but it was something that you two had built?
Mm-hmm. Even going back to that cabin, it's kind of emotionally difficult to be back there, and it's just close to me and but it like, there's a lot of that old life that, again, like there's no regrets of all those years that it's like, so, but it is difficult. And writing that album was difficult to do in that space. But I think Moon Phase, I can remember recording and just like, yeah, it was like really hard to get through the takes. So it was like, and I don't know if it had to do so much with the content of the song or if it had to do with, the being in that space or a combination of the things, but it was really impactful to, at least in that moment, whatever it was that was coming into me and going out of me.
I bet you walked out of that project a different person.
Definitely a clearer person. I feel like, in the way that like the songs are like therapy, they're always good to like tackle, so with the songs, just tackling something that's like in the recesses deep in there, and you're like, it is like kind of taking a pickaxe to it and getting it and unearthing it. And so I think with every song, especially on this album, I was getting through something. So yeah. How
has writing without Beth been for you? Like, you've called her your editor and proclaimed that you think it's important to write whatever comes out, because I don't think people want to listen to music that is guarded and they want to hear what you're really feeling.
Mm-hmm. I think Beth was like great at kind of like calling things and kind of shaping the things by positive feedback, and that was really cool. I like that process a lot. And I don't think that process, I don't think that was too different from how I do it now, other than I just don't have like a second. Well, I have my manager, Martin, who I like talk to. He's my buddy, and my friend Bryant, who I just like, I have two people all kind of like that kind of just steer me,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not like total musicians, but it's good. It's nice to have somebody that's as invested, that can kind of be a mirror to,
Mm-hmm.
that I don't have as many folks, well, I don't have Beth anymore. So, but
You've always been like fairly open about your relationship and your life, like in interviews. What benefits do you see or have experienced for yourself, for others, for your art in being so candid?
it would be hard to like hide those things from people for me. So I definitely know some drawbacks. But it'd be hard to answer a question differently if,
Right.
if it were asked.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I think people can relate better
Mhm.
with honesty, and I think people can hear honesty, and I definitely believe that is something that's nice to propagate.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of like the mythos behind bands is like, there is mythos. There is like, there is like, even with, Bowerbirds, there is like, only live in nature and like only commune with animal spirits to like, but that's not true, obviously. And it's just like, I think there's like getting to the, I don't know, being honest and transparent is, and kind of trying your hardest to not be part of like celeb culture is like important for me. Like I was talking to my friend who's more famous than me, and Nick Sanborn from Sylvanesso, and he's like just hates celeb culture, you know. And like, and some people, whereas some people love to like lean into it,
you know. Just quickly define
kind of like not to be Christian, but because I'm not, but like, you know, that false idol worship kind of thing, that just like how all, you know,
like
if
Billie
you
Eilish.
No, like I kind of think she at least appears from where I'm standing kind of down to earth for me. But
yeah, you got to watch the doc.
Yeah, is it good?
It's really good.
I'll totally. I mean, she's like homeschooled. She seems totally cool. And like it's just like her and her brother. But like, you know, even just like if you're going as extreme as like, you know, everybody in Great Britain, not everybody, a lot of folks in Great Britain are, you know, obsessed with the royals and like, you know, the royal family, that sort of thing where there's as if there's somebody at a different status from you.
Got it.
To look up to. And I don't like to be. And, you know, I'm not really part of that at all, but I don't
like the Harvard
like
elites.
That. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my God. Don't get me started on the Royals.
Yeah.
I listened to another podcast about the Royals recently. I listened to the Daily about the Royals, and that was good. And it explained things a little bit, why it's so important. Anyways.
Yes.
When you return to music, you put out like a couple of different statements about it. And one thing you said that I thought was like so nice was you said, it's been 8 years since you've heard new Bowerbirds music, and you and I have changed in ways that we could have never imagined back then, which is like so nice to consider the ways that like your audience has changed. And like, I was trying to think of like what we could talk about when it comes to that, but it makes me think about the past goals of the band. One of them was to help people. Like, where does that land with you now, like writing about your experiences and how that can help people?
That's a great question, and a great lead up to a question too. Like, and I don't know, like, I think especially early Bowerbirds, I was really like very like, you know, trying to find a way to help change, make change, and you know, through writing lyrics, encouraging people to like see that, you know, we're killing the planet that we live on. And those were some of my earliest songs. And I don't know if I don't think I like really, I mean, I obviously didn't change enough people's, you know, minds there. And it is a hard thing to, you know, to think that like the songs that I write about like love relationships would have any like effect on anybody else, really, you know. Like it's like I think
you don't think they have an effect on anybody else?
It's just hard for me to like imagine them having like a great effect on people. I want it to be true that I'm like, I think it's just the act of me sharing my experiences, you know, would just be like a conversation with somebody, and they could hear that and they could be like, oh, me too. Like, I also feel that way. But
I'm gonna disagree with you, because one of the reasons why I like to have these conversations with musicians is that I really feel like artists and musicians and writers really have a chance to like look through the lens of life in a completely different way than a normal person would, and then that gets channeled into your art. And it helps people understand that they might be, depressed, or they might have anxiety, or, if they're feeling alone, they're actually not alone. Like, music helps people feel less alone. So I would argue that you are helping people in more ways than you know.
That is totally possible. It's hard for me to feel that.
Let me just tell you about it and feel it for you.
Yeah.
Let me turn this interview around.
Yeah. And I'm on the other side too. Like I totally get that. I hear other people's music and it totally, I'm like being filled with, with like joy and love feelings, and like, music still works on me the way it,
the way it ought to.
The way it ought to, yeah. But I do like, it's hard for me to see it affecting people and me. And that, I think that has a lot to do with like not playing shows for people, so hopefully that will change, and, we'll be out there all together again in big rooms, and, and feeling those feelings together, I guess.
Yeah.
So
definitely. All right,
yeah.
Phil, before you go, let's do the lightning round.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Okay, here we go.
Yes.
What was the first song you learned on the guitar?
Oh my gosh. It was Van Halen. Is that? I don't know that one.
I'm not a boy. Sorry.
Yeah, I know exactly. Oh my gosh.
Was it Jump?
No, it was like
a Van Halen song, right?
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, that's a Van Halen song, but this was like. It was like. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, I can't do lightning rounds. This is not my speed.
All right, next question
Van Halen song.
What is your karaoke song?
Answer. My lightning answer is I am so scared of karaoke, and I don't do it. But I know that is a weak answer.
Dogs or cats or something else?
Both dogs and cats.
Acceptable
for
answer.
Sure.
Yeah. What is your coffee order?
Cold brew coffee in the summer, and probably a cappuccino with oat milk in the winter.
Nice.
Yeah.
First celebrity crush?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Maybe not the first, but impressionable one, but I don't even remember her name. She was in The Father of the Bride with Steve Martin.
Oh, she was the daughter.
The daughter, yeah. I was like in middle school.
So wholesome.
Yeah, seriously.
Who is the nicest musician you've ever met?
Oh, the nicest musician I've ever met. I can't do this.
You are actually really terrible at this.
I am terrible at this. Yes, this is why. Yeah.
Who's the first name that comes to mind? It's probably Phil Cook.
No, yeah, Phil is an exceptionally nice person. I would say like maybe I'll just say Martin Anderson. He played bass in a Trekkie, the Trekkie Christmas band. So he's also my manager, but he's like one of the nicest humans I know.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay,
Yep.
First album you bought with your own money?
Jesus Jones, whatever one that was, I don't know.
Oh
I'm
God.
sure it holds up.
Is that?
I'm sure it.
The Jesus Jones is right here, right now.
Yes.
Oh
yeah, exactly.
God.
Yeah.
All right. What was your first concert?
Amy Grant.
Oh my God.
That was with like my Christian friends.
Are you like a perfect little angel human?
No, I'm definitely not a perfect. No, not by any means.
Okay, here's the last question. Where's the most beautiful place you've ever visited?
Zion National Park.
Ooh.
Probably. It's
Great.
Beautiful. Have you been there?
No.
Canyonlands, Utah. Yeah, it's so pretty there. But
that was a good lightning answer.
Okay, yeah, that one actually rolled off the tongue.
Redemption.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. And on the good one.
Well, thank you so much, Phil. This has been it's been real fun talking to you, and I am like super psyched that you put this record out, and I know a lot of people are. So appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Yeah.
Basic Folk this week, produced by Laura McCarthy. Alex Stanton of Townspeople composes our music. Basic Folk is on the American Songwriter Podcast Network. I'm your host, Cindy Howes. I thank you so much for joining us today. And you can find all of the episodes of Basic Folk wherever you get podcasts. We will talk to you next time. Bye.